think a lot of people loved our episode last week with Beardo. I was very happy to see it seemed to be worth the wait. You know, sometimes when you do that kind of show, you don't know if you're like, it didn't go at all the way that I thought it was going to go, the way that I wanted it to go, but it ended up becoming something I was pretty proud of, because the entire point was for him to come on, to see us in a different light, to change the way that we are perceived with all the crew members, the casting crew over there in Collider Video. I mean, as the interview went on, we realized that he has very little to do with anything that goes on over there at all. In fact, who was it that he said he hadn't even met before? Was it Robert Meyer Burnett, or was it somebody else?
Yeah, I think that was one person that he had never met before. The other one was Christian Harloff.
Yeah. Anyway, it was weird, equal parts weird and awkward, but also delightful. So I want to thank Beardo again, and I want to apologize if I offended him by anything that I might have brought up within the episode.
What would you have offended him with?
My quote-unquote stand-up.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. No, it's funny because getting Beardo on, what that triggered was for Copster to finally DM me back to set up an appearance on Sight and Sound, which is fantastic, which is the only reason I wanted Beardo to come on to begin with. Copster
is the more important one, as we have clarified. So it ended up working out pretty well for us, that whole show. The only problem I have is that now when we release our Patreon, it's going to look like we're copying the Wangers, even though you and I have been talking about it for 6 months. But those guys put it in action, and they got it out before we did. But have you been following what they're doing on Patreon? They are going all out. And it's funny because...
So are we.
Well, we will be going all out. But it's funny because you and I have sort of talked about, and we kind of brought it up with Beardo too, how, my question was, does Beardo feel... I don't know if obligated is the word. Does Beardo feel like he has... like an audience that he wants to grow? Does he feel like is he taking an advantage of the SK Plus platform, or is it just a thing that he does on the side? Like, how much does he truly care about that? And, part of that conversation, I think the Wangers fall into that category a little bit, because we talked about how, they miss a show every few weeks, and so we didn't know how seriously they took it, but this Patreon shows that they're taking it very seriously, and I think we're going to see a lot of good stuff coming from them in 2018. So.
Yeah, I agree 100%. In fact, I have a lot more to say about that, but I can't talk about it in the intro, or Christian's going to fire us.
No, don't worry. I already started the show. We're not going to do any of that anecdotal, none of that talking stuff that we typically do at the beginning, because that's what Beardo wants.
Very good.
Welcome to, I don't know, whatever the hell this is going to be. My name is Ryan Snelling, and I'm welcome, as always, by Jaye Williams. Hey, buddy.
I feel like you're not happy to be here right now. Is that the case? Are you doing okay?
It's not about, I hate when you ask me that. It's not about happiness.
I know, it's my favorite thing to do.
It's a little confusion. It's a little weariness, just because, look, we're recording this on a Thursday night, like we always do. Well, it's a little bit earlier than we typically get started, but the problem is here, guys, that as of right now, the Schmoes have not released any type of show for us to discuss. I have no idea if it's even coming out tomorrow. There's no Schmoes, no show. There's no Harloff and Ellis podcast. I mean, maybe by the time you see this episode of After Schmoe go up, or pre-Schmoe, or before Schmoe, or no Schmoe, whatever the hell you want to call this, you might have that show. But I just need to let you know, we haven't seen it, because we're in the past. Despite the fact that Jay hates the past, we're in the past. And
I don't like living there.
It's weariness when it comes to what we're going to talk about. This episode might be 5 minutes, it might be 30 minutes, and we might just bullshit for a full hour. Who knows? I just don't know where to go. I have 3 very, very quick, simple thoughts, Jay. But I don't know. Maybe maybe I'm sort of just kind of not giving us enough credit, because sometimes we can make something out of nothing, and we've had to do it before.
I would say that's every time. We're pretty good at doing this, I think. You got to Kanye yourself a little bit.
I loved, I don't know if you meant to, but I love that you insinuated that we always were reviewing a nothing of a show. Like that's what that joke sounded like, and it was really, really funny. But
oh yeah, no, I didn't mean that. I'm not that type of guy. I don't make those types of statements.
Christian and Mark truly gave us absolutely nothing. I asked him earlier, just so I had a way to gauge how we were going to, schedule recording tonight, and he said that he was hoping to do it today, and we officially have finished Thursday without a show. So, not sure what's going on. I know that they were busy yesterday. I just had YouTube open a second ago, and I saw that Mark Ellis appeared on Screen Junkie's Movie Fights tonight. So that might have been another reason why they didn't get to record tonight. But this is sort of a first ever, if you will, for After Schmoe. What do you think about all this? Do you care?
Well, I mean, we've done shows where there haven't been shows. We just did one of those like 2 weeks ago, and I think it was fine. We had a guests on with Roca and Kristen Smith.
Well, no, it's a first in the sense that we're doing an After Schmoe before the show comes out. Like, not necessarily without it completely, because to my knowledge, they're still gonna do one. It's just gonna be out on Friday. So,
the thing that I'm curious about is if the roles were reversed and Christian was in charge. Well, I guess he is, but if we just decided to wait an extra day, what do you think his reaction would be to us?
I don't know if we would get a lot of a reaction, but I think he would think to himself a little bit of disappointment. He would probably say the word, he loves to say oof, like OOF. I get that. I get oof a lot from him.
I bet if it was the rundown, he'd be up in arms.
Yeah.
Where's my episode? I've got to grill a chicken.
I listened to the first half of After Schmoe on Friday, and then I listened to Rundown on Saturday, and then all the belts on Sunday, and then I finished After Schmoe. It's like, thanks for revealing that you care about our show the least. Compared to a third-party Schmoedown podcast, After Schmoe is your third priority.
So I want to start things off talking about Mark Ellis, because I don't know if you picked up on this or not. In the new year, I don't know if you knew this or not, but it's 2018. Mark Ellis, I don't know if this was a resolution, but he has stepped up his fashion game in 2018. Maybe not every single day, but that man is looking mighty spiffy, and I think it's all down to the fact that I complimented his attire for The Last Jedi premiere. Your thoughts?
I think that you are grasping at straws. I think, and my theory...
Wasn't that a TV show?
My theory is that he's feuding with John Roca. See, we have publicly... I know you complimented Ellis from before, but we have also been public about how Roca is the most fashionable in the office. And, he did wear that... What is that? That's not a fedora that he wore. What is that? That golfing hat? What is that called?
I called it the Newsies cap.
Get your papers here, see?
Right. And that's what they did on the show. Did you watch Movie Talk or not this week?
Movie Talk? Never heard of it. No, I legitimately haven't watched Movie Talk this week. More on that soon.
How'd you know that he wore that hat then?
Because he wore it, and I figured you picked up on this. He wore it for his review of Proud Mary with Jay Washington, which is another thing I want to get to. The fact that Jay Washington is now appearing on Schmoe's reviews.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I just have not seen that video. I don't always watch their reviews. It's kind of... Actually, I think their movie reviews are probably lowest on the totem pole when it comes to like Collider and Schmoe's No Content. And that's interesting.
Really?
Because we hardly ever talk about their review videos on here. But It's not for any reason in particular, other than I don't even watch movie reviews in general anymore. I think part of it is I do see less movies than ever now, especially in 2017. It was like a record-breaking year as far as the movies I did not see. But I don't watch Stuckman anymore. I watch Flick Pick because I value his personality a lot. But ultimately, I'm just kind of done with movie reviews. So they're on the back burner for now. But
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I'm a Stuckman guy. One of the reasons why I go to Stuckman first is because our opinions align often, and I'm all about confirmation bias, but also because I enjoy his videos, and he's also very quick to put them out. So when I'm eager to see a review, he's the one that I go to, and I watch Mark and Christian's review simply because I like them, and I like their take. I like their energy on camera. And I think that's sort of what's different about them than other reviewers. And this is obviously just my opinion, but more of their character shows through, I think. Obviously, yes, a Flick Pick has his character and Jeremy Johns has his character, but you get that dynamic. Like sometimes I feel like they're going to punch each other in their reviews, Mark and Christian. And I like that. I like the threat of violence in my film reviews.
I mean, it's the fact that they're able to bounce off each other. I mean, I think, and then, of course, naturally, their personality shows the fact that they've known each other for years. I mean, that's something that Chris Stuckman doesn't have to offer. I mean, he might do a random review with Flick Pick every now and then, but, I mean, that's certainly unique to them specifically, and why I give them all the credit in the world, and they deserve all the credit in the world for not only being one of the first movie reviewers, but having that dynamic in general,
right,
and making it so special. But
I do put Collider movie reviews pretty low on my list, actually, because solely for the fact that I'm not really, this is just me personally, now I'm not really interested in seeing a full hour-long, what would essentially be a podcast about one film in that sort of way. I don't know why that is. I'm just not particular to it.
That's not all of them. I mean, I think that they definitely do those for the big blockbusters that warrant that type of discussion. But
that's all I go see.
When true, but that's not fair because you watched the review of Proud Mary. So I mean, I could definitely assume that you might have seen Collider's review of All the Money in the World, which is a regular movie review length. I think. I don't know if you know this or not, but
no, I didn't watch that.
Okay, I don't know if you know this, but in their movie reviews, when it's like Roca and Perry, what they do that's different than at least other YouTubers that I've seen, is they have a lower third bar.
Yes.
Similar. So you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
I like that idea. I think that's pretty cool. It just makes it a little bit more official and succinct. Doesn't allow for it to go astray, really, when they know that they have these points that they want to hit on. And so, but anyway, back to all of this came from me speculating that Ellis and Roca had a feud because Roca is the better dresser, but I was validated today, and of course I'm completely bullshitting and making all of this up, but I was validated today when on Movie Talk it was really, really funny to see that Ellis just made it a habit to disagree with Roca, and it was fascinating. And people in the chat were all about it. Like, why the hell can't Ellis agree with Roca on anything today? And even Roca eventually called him out, and it was funny because they seem to be a little annoyed with each other, which is funny. And I don't know what the hell was going on, but anyway. That's nothing, and it has nothing to do with how Ellis dresses.
I actually did watch today's episode of Movie Talk, so I take that back. I did watch today's, and I did pick up on that, and I did think it was funny and was interesting. It's sometimes I'm pretty neurotic about thinking about the interactions between people. Not like I overthink them or I make up false feuds, but I thought to myself, Roca and Ellis, they don't seem to interact on camera that often. Like, Roca hasn't been... He's not somebody that's constantly on the Schmoe show. He comes on the show, obviously. He comes on to promote the Schmoe Down and whatnot. But you don't see them interact together quite as much as you would maybe an Ellis and a Makuga, or an Ellis and a Ken even. When I think of Roka's interactions with people in Collider, I think of Christian, I think of Perry. Who are some other ones that he interacts with quite a bit? Obviously, Dennis, when they did movie talk together all the time. But
I would assume Dennis for sure, but just anybody that has sort of an off-camera role ultimately. Right. So Dennis and like Riley and Perry, even though to be honest, I'm not entirely sure of everything that Perry does specifically. Like I know that Riley has the producing role on Movie Talk and writes out all the notes and things like that. And I know Perry is credited on Collider.com still. I can't remember what the title is right now, but I would probably need to find out more specifics, especially because she's not doing behind the scenes anymore too. So I would be curious to know a little bit more about what she does on the daily. That's not a shot or anything. I'm just curious. Yeah,
for sure. I agree. And I wasn't trying to say that, Mark and Roka don't ever hang out. I just mean specifically on their on-screen interactions. In fact, I'm remembering back now to when they did Comic-Con and Roka went and did stand-up with Ellis. So, there's always those things. But I'm still not convinced. Has Finstock ever interacted with Schnepp? Actually, they have. Didn't he beat him? Didn't he beat him in the Schmoedown?
They had an awful Schmoedown match with each other. Schnepp kept calling them gym socks. It was pretty great. But
it's amazing.
I remember some kind of offhand comment. I think it happened this week where someone just threw out that Roka was the producer of Heroes, and then I noticed that Roka is mentioned a lot on Heroes, like in a way that like we know that it insinuates that Roka is off camera during Heroes. Yeah. So
actually, can confirm that. I found that out a couple weeks ago. Christian actually mentioned it to me, and I was like, what, really? I just never brought it up.
I don't even know what that means. What does it mean to produce Heroes in a capacity like Schnepp already, to my knowledge, organizes what Heroes is and what he's going to do, unless he doesn't do that anymore. So I don't know what it means to produce Heroes when it's always been Schnepp organizes what they're going to talk about and what they're going to do, and then he just brings it up whenever he wants on the show.
Well, see, I think that's specifically what it is Schnepp's more of the host. He's the personality, whereas Roka comes in and says, hey, I think today we're going to do this, bounces the ideas around.
That's never how I've understood it, because like on a Monday or on a Tuesday, Schnepp will already tell them, like on Movie Talk, when they're like, oh, Heroes is out tomorrow, catch Schnepp on Heroes, and what are y'all going to talk about? And Schnepp is already ready to throw out what he wants to discuss. And then there was a series that Heroes did, which was like Marvel versus DC through the decades, and like that was all Schnepp. Like I've never not been under the impression that Schnepp doesn't organize that show.
Right. Yeah, and I think he definitely has something to do with it. What was said to me was that Schnepp's been really cool about Roka producing the show, and just being like, oh yeah, let's do that.
Okay, that's fine.
What's his name is going to be in Deadpool? Not Deadpool. What's that movie called, or that show called? Punisher. Moon Knight.
Moon Knight. Yeah, Moon Knight is in the Punisher, confirmed by John Schnepp. Let's go on and segue into what happened with Schnepp this week. I know you didn't watch Movie Talk, so I'm excited to tell you about this. So it actually is extremely relevant to what we just brought up with Moon Knight. You could call it criticism. We talked about how Schnepp can be a little willy-nilly when it comes to just throwing things out that he says are true, but end up not becoming true at all. We talked about how much Collider videos should, we debated on whether they should act as if they're always speculating or act as if they're coming from a place where they are providing the news and trying to figure out the best balance. So we questioned if Schnepp should be airing out that he knows certain things that may or may not actually be true. So he did it again this week, and I was scared to death that it would be another Moon Knight situation and that there would be backlash online to what Collider had been doing or what Schnepp had been doing on Movie Talk. So he throws out, I think it was Tuesday's Movie Talk, he just throws out that he has a scoop and he knows 100% for a fact that Spider-Man will be in Tom Hardy's Venom movie.
Oh, boy.
He breaks that scoop. He breaks that scoop on Movie Talk. He knows it for a fact, insider knowledge, and of course, film Twitter and all the blogs ran with that story. Okay, 24 hours went by. Actually, it might have been later that night. I see Schnepp tweet. He tweeted out something along the lines of, "Check out tomorrow's Collider Heroes, where I clarify my Spider-Man statements."
Amazing.
And I just went, "Oh no!"
At this point, I love it. Like I don't care. So a bunch of people ran with this story, and
yes.
He might not have given the full thing. Well, you know what? Serves you right, because just like I don't know.
Well, but I'm able to tell you the ending because Heroes already came out. It was yesterday's Heroes where he clarified. So the clarification was, it's actually Peter Parker that is making an appearance in Venom. But if you listen to the scoop on Movie Talk, he says Spider-Man.
Well, they're the same person.
So he said, well, it's different though. It's different. But he said Spider-Man was going to be in Venom. Everybody ran with it. Spider-Man was in the headlines. And then he had to clarify. And that's the thing I was afraid of, right? Like any kind of clarification. I don't know if he's receiving any backlash. Personally, I don't care. Like you said, it's just kind of funny. But yeah, on Heroes, he had to clarify that it was actually Peter Parker that will have a cameo. But it's not going to be like Spider-Man versus Venom or anything like that. Because, I mean, it makes sense. It makes way more sense to have Peter Parker just walk by on the sidewalk than why would Spider-Man cameo? Like, if you put Spider-Man in the movie, that adds a different dynamic. Like, is it an action scene? Is he going to drop in? Is there going to be a fight scene at the end? Like, it doesn't make sense to have any kind of Spider-Man cameo. But, so anyway, I just thought it was hilarious because we've talked about that before on the show, and sure enough, it happened again this week where he had to come out and clarify his statements.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of bringing back that conversation that we had about the responsibility that people have reporting, and I don't even know if you call it reporting. They're pundits. I'm sort of shifting my perspective on what a lot of when Ken comes on and does the news, or especially Perry, from a certain point of view, they're reporting things. These are just people talking and offering punditry, much like you would find on an ESPN. And, some things are going to get a little bit wacky from time to time. And I've lessened my grip a little bit on that whole stance of like, I think they have a certain amount of responsibility, but like any blog, any website, of course, John Schnepp said, like, I have a scoop, here's what it is, and they reported it, and I get why they did that. But I think we live in a culture today of news and media where people will just take and pick anything they want out of this stuff. But we're in such a bubble. Do you think that's something they're really waking up every day and being like, well, I need to fact check everything that I'm planning on saying on Movie Talk today?
This could be its own discussion. Like, we could do an entire podcast about this, I think. And I don't know. I've never liked the idea of like film blogging being taken so seriously. But at the same time, it's like, look, if Collider Video has an employee like Schnepp who throws out...
What types of blogs are you talking about?
Like Slash...
Name some names.
Like Umberto, and like how serious he takes like having scoops and shit like that. Like, I don't think the general populace gives a shit about... Again, this is its own thing. It's not really answering your question, but I get annoyed when film blogging in general, I think it's just becoming... I mean, it's like newspapers even though we're not talking about newspapers, we're still talking about online media, but like I think film blogging is becoming more and more irrelevant. And I'm sure that Frosty could challenge me on that and, give me the 411 and tell me that I'm completely wrong. But I guess I'm mainly just speaking to the habits of the reader. I think that, because Collider Video and Screen Junkies, all that stuff, that completely ruined me from reading any kind of movie blog. And even all the accounts that I follow on Twitter, Heroic Hollywood and Collider and all that stuff, I'm reading the headlines. I'm not reading the articles because the articles are usually just a link to a video or a link to a trailer, and it's like I'm getting all of that stuff anyway, stuff elsewhere. Like the actual written page on movie blogs is becoming less and less relevant to me. So that's just how I see it. So, but when bringing it back to Collider Video, it's all about perception, right? Because they still are, no matter how, no matter where they are as far as balancing whether they're news or just punditry, they still want to be taken seriously. So if you have an employee like Schnepp who's just, spouting off random information without any validation, it might matter to them because they want to be taken seriously. They don't want to appear as a joke amongst their peers in that community. So in that sense, I understand them taking it seriously. And that's why I sort of just laugh it off when people like Schnepp don't really have a regard for that.
Right.
But ultimately, it's like I'm not grilling Schnepp. I'm not bashing Schnepp. I'm just kind of laughing at it, even though some of them over there might not laugh at it.
Yeah, I mean,
so I just don't have to. I have the privilege. I don't have to take it as seriously as some of those guys do. So
yeah, I have so much to unpack here. I think from Frosty's point of view, I think one of the good things that he's doing, and you see many other people doing it too in the community, people who are journalists and whatnot, they might have a YouTube channel or they have podcasts and this and that. We see Frosty dip into a Movie Talk episode every now and then, or those reviews, specifically those reviews that are still under embargo that they can sort of talk about but not really talk about. And I think it's interesting to sort of get his character from those videos. It's nice to put a face to these names that write this stuff, or to actually get their vocal personality rather than their written personality. Like I love the fact that I know that Frosty wears like leather wristbands and he might be into metal. I'm just judging that based on his appearance.
Wow.
I have no idea, but I think that's cool. Like I like that. I'm interested in it. To sort of go a step further about being like respected in the community and this and that. This is something that I tell people all the time. I think if you are ever in an industry, especially this one, regardless of screenings and this and that, the second that you start pandering to people that aren't paying your bills, I think you are in a very, very dangerous situation. In my opinion, personal opinion, Collider's business should be to entertain people. Entertain people and inform people. Those two things. You don't necessarily have to be, I'm not saying they should just go around talking shit about everybody, but you don't necessarily have to have that ultimate professional respect to do those things. Could they get ousted from screenings? Yes. Could they be barred from this and that? And yes, all that stuff is true. But guess what? Viewership talks. If they have a big enough subscriber base, if a studio decides that they don't want to quote unquote market their film by sending an actor to be on Collider, and they have this huge base of people that they want to market to, that's on them, and they're missing out on a huge thing. Why? Because some guy misspoke about some news story. Like, I think that's silly, and I hate it when people or companies or industries start trying to impress people within their own industry rather than, I'm not saying they're doing this, I'm just saying that's a slippery slope to go down.
I agree, and forgive me if I'm being confusing. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Lebitard, and he doesn't fit that sort of constraint that ESPN, like I think ESPN, most shows are meant to, like, I think Stephen A. Smith takes First Take very seriously. And he's not always breaking news. He is speculative and theorizing and just sort of examining and analyzing sports in general. But when you have someone like Lebitard who just kind of does both, and you have a character like Stu Gatz who will just spout things that have no factual basis at all, and it's allowed because it's not supposed to be taken seriously, it still works, and it's still one of the biggest platforms ever, and one of the most successful radio shows out. So it's like, I agree with you in that I don't think any studio would base any kind of, like, I guess it just depends on how big Collider Video actually is. You know what I mean? Like, I can see that they have over 400,000 subscribers, and I mean, I think it's obviously big enough to get someone like Taika Waititi on the channel. But I guess I don't know if any channel could necessarily do what we're talking about if they were at like 30,000 subscribers, if you will. You know what I mean? So, but they might just be in a position where they don't have to worry about that, and you're absolutely right. But I don't know. Well, but we might be entirely too wrong. Maybe we're wrong, and they're not as big as we think they are, and maybe it could actually hurt them. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. The instances that I'm speaking about. I mean, the UFC, Dana White is known for just straight up banning journalists because he didn't like things that they not necessarily wrote about, but they reported about, like they were breaking scoops, like we're talking about, and it one sort of ruined a marketing campaign, ruined the surprise of an event. So we just outright banned one of the journalists, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, how are they going to work? How they?" Well, guess what? He showed up the next day and he still reported on stuff. Yeah, he wasn't at the press conferences asking questions, but he was still able to create the content and survive and this and that. So I think it's a fascinating conversation. Again, it's not really tied to anything specific other than this sort of rabbit hole we went down with Schnepp.
Yeah, I feel like I just threw out and just vomited a ton of opinions that were just wild. So my main point is that Collider Video has ruined me from reading blogs, and they feel less relevant. Like Heroic Hollywood, I have, because I make fun of them because their stories are just headlines. Right. They are very guilty. Like an example, and I'm making this one up, but they are guilty of, giving you the headline of Spider-Man confirmed in Venom, and then you open it up and it's one paragraph that might be 4 sentences that's just the headline over again, and then a second final paragraph that is just like the synopsis of the film, and Venom is expected to come out fall of 2018. And it's just, there's no point in having a movie blog when that's all you're doing, because it's just where we are when it comes, where we are technologically. That kind of stuff can be done within a tweet. And is it the best thing for journalism as a whole? Is it the best thing for news as a whole? No, but they've been guilty of just writing articles that can be tweets. And so I don't know. Maybe I'm generalizing based on some of the things I've seen them do. And like I said, I think Frosty could probably take me to town, shove how successful Collider.com is right in my face, and prove to me that maybe they're growing and I just don't see it. But I mean, there's some validity to what I'm saying though, because I can't be the only person that quit reading movie blogs to watch Collider Video daily.
I would love to. I mean, I don't think this would be the platform to do it. It would be like something on Sight and Sound if we ever could. But I would love to have like a round table discussion with a Jeff Snyder and a Frosty just about the state of movie journalism, and to get their takes on the whole concept of, do we take it too seriously? What is the efficacy?
I have excellent news for you. I'm glad you brought this up. I am in the middle of preparing for an episode with Heroic Hollywood's writer Sean Madden, and we already talked about it earlier this week because we followed each other on Twitter for a while now. Sean will appear on Sight and Sound sometime later this year for this exact reason.
Amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and I have something to announce. Jeff Snyder is going to be appearing on my music show. No, it's not true. Anyways, this is actually sort of linked something that I wanted to talk about specifically with Collider. To address why I haven't been watching Movie Talk, there's a couple reasons. One, I've been insanely busy at my day job, and typically when I yes, when I watch Collider and sometimes listen to Collider, I'm at my day job. And unfortunately, I'm so busy that I can't really do like a podcast type of thing right now. It's just my mind can't focus on that and be able to be productive. Typically, I can. The level of busyness is just too much. Anyways, but I will say that, and this is just the way that I take in Collider content. Obviously, I watch Collider stuff because of this gig doing After Schmoe, and I watch it with a unique perspective to sort of break down different things. I look for different things. I'm sure you do the same. But I also Collider is my avenue for movie news, and I'm very interested in watching the content, like most people, I'm sure, when there are really, really hot news stories and topics to discuss and break down. Obviously, your tentpole films, your big blockbuster films, those are any news surrounding those, any sort of speculation, trailer drops, all of that stuff. I think it goes without saying that January isn't necessarily the heat meter on January for films isn't exactly warm. I would say it's barely close to cold. It might be frigid, but I don't even know if the news cycles really have gotten going. We do this thing on Sight and Sound called the Pop Culture Crown, and we would never give this month to movies. Is that safe to say?
Yeah. I think you're unpacking two different points, though. I think.
Well, the point that I'm trying to get to is the fact that there hasn't been a lot in the news cycle for movies this month. I mean, obviously that's subjective. That's completely subjective. But my big question here that I want to ask you, and that I would like to get into a discussion about, is: do you think Collider's viewership base, I'm sure it goes up and it goes down, and this isn't a statement because it's gone down, I'm just talking. Do you think that it is too beholden and too reliant on specifically what news stories come out and the interest level of the community based on those news stories?
Well, to answer your original question, is January pretty much ice cold when it comes to movies? That is a yes. But I just have to disagree that the news cycle hasn't been there. Since the turn of the new year, we got that Kendrick announcement. We got all of that movie release date shuffle. We've talked about Edge of Tomorrow 2. They're still talking about box office with Last Jedi, which is still pretty notable. I actually just don't agree that. I think the news cycle has been, if anything, it's just been consistent. It does feel like it feels like it's April. It feels like it's September. I mean, it's a pretty consistent level bit of news. So I just don't agree there. But that doesn't mean that it can't happen, right? Yeah, there have been slow periods when it comes to the news cycle, and I think your ultimate point is that Collider Video is sort of dependent on how frequent the news actually is, and that is your ultimate point. I just don't think that this particular January is a great example of that.
Right, and of course, that's, again, it's subjective to whatever you're interested in, and that I'm more speaking to me personally and my interest in taking in the news content. But to get to the big question, do you think that Collider is potentially too subservient to whatever news stories come out? Should they have, and maybe they do, maybe we're just not privy to it, should they have a backup plan? Should they be investing in something outside of the news cycle to support the channel?
I think there was a version of Collider Video that might have been too dependent on it. We've kind of had versions of this conversation off air. So I have thought a lot about this, whether we've talked about it on here or not. I think the strength here, Christian would like us to think of Collider Video as a network, right? He wants us to think of it like TV because, I mean, this is corporate. This isn't like late to the party. This is corporate. There's corporate backing behind this. So,
that wasn't a jab, by the way.
No, that's not a jab.
It's
a different mindset. It's a corporate mindset. They have to make money because they have employees. And again, that's not a jab. It's just a different reality. maybe I didn't even have to use Late to the Party. I could have just said Sight and Sound. I mean, it's entirely different. So as far as like optimizing their videos and their structure to make money, I mean, they have a lot to think about. And so what I think is strong about Collider Video now is that they sort of have gone back. They removed the daily format of their shows, of Heroes and TV Talk and all that. They got rid of all that. And they also got rid of having like that daily talk show every day when it used to be Nightmares on Tuesday, right? And then
right.
So they've thinned all that out a little bit. So the best thing that Collider Video has going, because they're able to thin all that stuff out, they're able to just throw out videos whenever they want. And it can be about anything. They can do a Collider News about Lucasfilm releasing the plot synopsis to Han Solo, or Makuga and Grace can jump in front of a camera real quick and talk for 7 minutes about the assassination of Gianni Versace. Or Roka can just have an idea for a video, like, let's talk about who won 2017, Marvel, DC, or Star Wars. And then they just sit down and do it because they have more time available for that. I think they did a video like a couple days ago that was like Wonder Woman versus Logan. Yeah, it was Wonder Woman versus Logan. Which movie deserves award? Like, they're able to just kind of throw out those videos. So I guess you could argue that is somewhat timely because they're discussing how Wonder Woman and Logan are going to do at the Oscars. But even remove the Oscars, remove that whole element. They could do that video without it. Like, they could just talk about, like, hey, we think these are the two best superhero movies of the year. Which one is better? And they can just discuss, and it would get 37,000 hits, like it has. So I think that even though we're supposed to think of it as a network and as a corporate entity, their strength is that they're able to do it in the way that Sight and Sound does, in the way that Late to the Party does, in which whenever they just want to throw out a video, they can. And it doesn't have to matter how timely it is or not. So
right. I think there's I think now just talking about it, what we know of Collider, the movie talks, the shows that come out through the week, Heroes, whatnot, Jedi Council, that's a backbone of something that's ever going to go away. It has established viewership and it's pretty much always going to be there. It can go up and it can go down. I think these other videos that come out are at least from my point of view, they're almost like testing the water to see where the interest sort of is. However, I think whenever the news cycle is down, certain things that really support the channel are almost your extracurricular sort of shows, your comic book shopping, your Schmoedown, so to speak, the things that can just gain further attention. I mean, for some people, shows like Heroes, Movie Talk, Jedi Council, it's just not for them specifically. And we have to be respectful of that, and we have to be knowledgeable of that some people just aren't going to be willing to take in that sort of content. So I think, but in the other side of that, it is more of a risk to put your time into, let's say, a season of a show. Like if they decided to come up with another game show and they decided to throw a bunch of production into it. I mean, look at Jeremy Johns' Awesome Tacular. Not saying that it was a failure by any means, but I'm just saying, if that show doesn't hit, think about all the time, all the money that you had to put into that. Now, I would like to see, personally, just as a fan, more extracurricular sort of programming to help support the channel outside of that news cycle.
I'm looking at their channel right now, and it's incredibly well balanced, I think. And I don't know if I realized how balanced it is, because you have the show that Collider was built on, which is Movie Talk, and that spawned Heroes and Jedi Council, of course. But their top 50 superhero movie list was a runaway hit. We
Right.
We talked about it, I think it was either last week or the week before. We didn't know what their actual goal was. Christian let me know their goal was 20,000 views a video. And their number one, The Dark Knight, had 130K. And I think even the average when I brought it up last time, it was like between 40 and 50. So they were already doing tremendously well. But like their number 5, 4, and 3 and 2, but all have over 60,000 views in general. So I like even that was a runaway hit. I've just now noticed that they've introduced a TV reviews playlist like on the main page of Collider. So I think that's another thing that they're going to make a habit of doing, which is just putting out a video about whatever TV show comes out, right? I don't know if they're going to spend the entire season on Johnny Versace, but if anything notable happens, they're going to do it. And it's funny because I remember last month they put out that Walking Dead video talking about the fact that they were all giving up on the show. I didn't realize that video had almost 200,000 views. That's incredible.
Hey, man, I can relate. I remember when I quit watching The Path, we got some good views off that. No, I just think it's important to think about these things as a, we're a YouTube channel as well. Shout out to Sight and Sound. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs. We only need 50 more. But I just think that it's important to think about those things. And it's something that I've been thinking about too. We built our channel the same way a lot of people build their channel when they start out: reviews, reactions, this and that. And for me personally, I'm thinking about what else can I do? What else can I do to try to not even necessarily get the attention of people, but we've talked a lot too how there's 400,000 plus subscribers that Collider has, but yet only a fraction are paying attention. Like, what can we do to get our existing subscriber base as engaged?
Right.
Like that's something I think we're always looking for.
You need personality, Beardo.
That's right. Hey, should we talk about the Mark and Christian show? Who do you think is going to be on this week?
Is this like what pre-Schmoe used to be? If people don't know, Jay used to do like a pre-Schmoe thing leading up to every Schmoes Know live show. It was a Facebook Live video, and he would sort of speculate what was going to happen. I don't know how he did it, but
I can podcast about anything.
You just asked me that question, and I have nothing to say. I don't know. They're gonna sit down on the couch again because Christian probably went back into the office and talked to Mark. Was like, Snelling and Jaye really like the couch thing. Let's keep it up. So they're gonna sit at the couch. Maybe they will have figured out how they want to do giveaways, and they're just gonna say some stuff, and that's gonna be it. And they're gonna enjoy each other, and it's gonna be funny. But there's no specifics anymore. They're just sitting there talking about whatever, and it's breezy. It's breezy. They don't have to cater to anything specific anymore.
Yeah, I think the most fascinating thing about this show is that we're not 100. We've only gotten one, right? I mean, we had those Schmoes Know shows that they pre-recorded, and that was still under that banner. But I'm curious to see if they carry on with this thing of like just honestly kind of like we do with our Sight and Sound after parties, where they just sort of sit down and just talk about whatever they want. I think that seems to be the intent. So it makes definitely trying to predict what they're going to talk about a little bit difficult. I'm sure we'll get some weather talk in there. I'm sure we'll get some Super Bowl talk in there, some sports ball talk. And, I'm excited about it because I think from time to time, because we see these guys on produced shows a lot, and we get Carpool and whatnot, and Ellis is a super authentic person, but they're friends, and the friendship that they have, the character that they have together, and the charisma that they have together is what built Schmoes Know. And the fact that we're just getting back to that, I think, is something that everybody can be excited about.
Ellis, I want to hear your take on Blake Bortles' potentially being in the Super Bowl. You're not going to hear this before taping, so very unlikely. I'm sure they'll talk about what trailers they can expect to see, but Super Bowl is what? It's still like 2 or 3 weeks away.
Oh, really? Is that true? I wouldn't know.
Yeah, the final playoffs games haven't even happened yet, and then they take a week break, and then there's a Super Bowl. It's the first weekend of February. The Super Bowl should be on a Saturday night. Why the hell is it on a Sunday night? It's foolish.
I agree. Should we do something special for the Super Bowl?
I'll probably do a video about. We can do a bunch of trailer reactions. How about that?
Nah, I'm good.
The last thing I want to bring up, it's just a question. I have no idea how you're going to answer it. I'm just going to ask you based purely off of an observation. When it comes to, by the way, for one, I'm not happy about the fact that I'm not the only person that thought of Harpool as a nickname for that show. Everyone's doing it, and I can't even give myself any credit because these people are coming up with it and they've never even heard of After Schmoe. So yeah, Harpool is a thing, whether I came up with it or not. Not happy about that. I realized that Carpool is just, at least it was this week, just mainly about the Schmoedown. And Christian's going to throw out Carpool is whatever I want it to be, and that's the only purpose that it serves. And there's no argument there. There's no argument at all. I want to ask you as a viewer, would you rather him keep it open and just talk about whatever he wants to talk about? Or like, does it matter that it's just primarily about what's going on with the Schmoedown? Do you think it's a timely thing? Do you think it just happens to be because they're prepping the award show and gearing up for the new season? Is that a problem at all? Or am I making something out of nothing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of a bunch of things. I think, one, there's not a lot to talk about. I still stand by that. I think he even said himself he's ready for January to be over. It just seems like it's dragging on. But I think Christian is so much in the creative mindset, and he's so amped about what the future can be. I mean, Patreon, we kind of joke about Patreon. We talk about the fact that everybody's got one. But, man, that opens up so many interesting doors, okay? First of all, the fact that a Patreon can even be associated with the Schmoedown is fascinating, because if you just take that group alone, the Facebook group that they have, excuse me, I'm sure in his mind he's seeing all these people and thinking, man, if these guys want to contribute, want to invest, and want to be a part of this, like, we could be looking at a good chunk of change to help make the Schmoedown better. That's exciting as somebody who's a producer or content creator. And we talked about the Wangers, the fact that, they would do their show here and there and this and that. But the fact that now people are investing in their show and they want more, they have a completely new lease on life with doing that show. You
brilliantly steered away from my ultimate question, which
I'm about to answer it. I think he should do whatever he wants with that show. It's his fucking show.
Okay.
And if he likes the Schmoedown, he should talk about the Schmoedown.
That's not what I asked.
Do I mind?
I said there was no argument if Christian just wants to say it's whatever I want it to be. I'm saying as a viewer, because you are not a diehard Schmoedown fan, in the sense that you keep up with it, you have to listen to all these podcasts. You watch it casually, sort of like I do. So my question was, do you care if he spends an entire week talking about Schmoedown on Carpool? And you brilliantly steered it away as if I didn't agree with the Patreon and things like that. You made a case for the Patreon. That's not at all where I was going. Because as a matter of fact.
Well, here, listen, stop for a second. So I don't care that he talks about that. I like watching Carpool. I'm interested in the creative process of people. It could be him thinking about how to make a fucking grilled cheese, and I'd think it was entertaining. I mean,
I would like that too.
Is that the thing that I'm the most invested in? No, it's not in particular. And I do think he is probably retreading on some of his own thoughts, but it's fine. It's fucking hard. It's hard to do a show like that while you're driving, for fuck's sake. It's just like, And I do think it's a little bit of an exaggeration to say the whole week. Haven't we only gotten like one carpool, maybe two this week?
So the whole week.
One was going to be cut short. He sort of did what we did. I don't know how I'm going to fill time here. I'm going to cut it off, but he ended up going the whole distance. No, I don't care, man. I just, you know me. I'm pretty carefree about stuff like that.
It's just a question. I'm trying to fill up time and content. Okay, that's all it was.
We've already gone an hour.
He's gonna get mad at me because I asked that question, even though I'm just trying to talk, so that we do the hour show. I do have every intention. He threw out the word stockholder. He wants the patrons and contributors to be considered stockholders. So I have every intention of being the person who contributes the most amount of money, even if it means $500 a month. I want to abuse my authority when it comes to the Schmoedown. So, no, Christian, I don't think I want you to compete it. Well, actually, he might be for that. I just want to be able to make decisions and affect what actually happens on the Schmoedown. That would get me interested. It's if I was pulling strings behind the curtains.
I'm a supporter of anonymous donations. That way, no attention is drawn to myself.
Oh, my donation to the Wenger Patreon, my $20 donation's extremely anonymous.
It's good. I'm proud of those guys, man. I really am. I think it's exciting. Not just because of even what they've done with the Patreon, the fact that it's being successful. I'm proud. Like I said, it's so cool to see them with that new energy. I watched Wangers this week, and man, it was just so different. And I like that. Not that it was bad by any means. I'm just saying it was they just had this energy about them that, hey, people really do fucking care what we're doing. And it's made me excited to announce the Sight and Sound Patreon, which you can check. I'm just kidding. But for real, expect an announcement later.
You know why everything Wangers is exciting?
Because it could be me.
Because they're the new hotness. They're the next generation. They're the next big thing. That's why it's exciting. Pretty soon, this show's going to be called After Wangers.
I do think it's funny how the concept of Wangers has sort of changed over time. Because Cobster even brought it up on the episode this week that, normally we do this top 10 show with RB3 and with JT. Yeah, and they just weren't around. I mean, to me, the Wangers have just literally become Cobster, Cody, and Beardo. And I don't know, it's just fascinating. It's fascinating. That's all I've got.
Jaye Williams, where can the people find you online?
You can find me at Jaye Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same for both. Every single Friday, I'm doing my music show on Sight and Sound. Come check it out. Just started doing video a little bit more consistently, so you can see my lovely face just talk to the wall for an hour. People seem to like it. Got more watchers, got more listeners. Got more listeners last week. Have no idea why, but that's cool. Come hang out with me. We're doing some things. Where can they find you?
Find me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell. Make sure that you check out Sight and Sound. Speaking of newfound energy, we are going to do some damage on Sight and Sound this year. I'm really excited. All of our new videos and podcasts, we want to hit the ground running here in 2018. We're going to announce a Patreon as well, so be on the lookout for that. And check out my most recent podcast. I revealed my top 10 movies of 2017. And that's about it. You'll find me on After Schmoe again next week. Hopefully we have a Harloff and Ellis show to talk about. Okay. Actually, next week we'll have 2 Harloff and Ellis shows to talk about, because we will need to talk about this week's show. Thanks for your support. And I'm glad that you all enjoyed the Don't Be an After Schmoe. Can't wait to hang out with you guys in 2018 as well. Bye-bye.